Hi everyone, and welcome to my first academia focused video. It's my first time talking in front of the camera, so excuse my awkwardness, but here we go. And if you're new here, my name is Sophia and I'm studying neuroscience at UCL. As I recently finished my first year and my exam results came out a while ago, I thought I would open it with you guys and share my reactions, so let's get started. So during my first year, I had 7 subjects or modules: chemistry, cell biology, biochemistry, neuroscience, physiology, genetics, and neurobiology. So I had 7 exams as well, 1 in each module. I was talking to my friends in other courses and they were all really shocked to hear that I had 7 exams. So I think other courses at UCL might have fewer exams and probably higher weighting on coursework instead. It was pretty tough to balance all these subjects while having 2 part-time jobs to basically keep myself alive in London. So I'm not keeping my hopes up too high, but I still hope I get out with a decent grade. Speaking of grades, I'm going to give you guys an overview how British uni grades work so that we're all on the same page. So the highest grade you can achieve is a first class. I usually call it a first. And you get a first when you score a 70% or above and is equivalent to an A. After that, you have an upper second or 2-1 as we call it, and then a lower second or 2-2, and lastly a third, which is the lowest passing grade you can get, and anything below this will be a failing grade. Usually first year grades are not super important, as the only place you would use it for is when you're applying to internships during your second year. However, a lot of internships and placement schemes ask for a 2-1 or above. So what I'm hoping for is a 2-1 in every single module. But then of course, that might be too much to ask for since I couldn't dedicate all my time to uni. So I would be pretty happy with a 2-1 in average. So I was one of those students who made a spreadsheet to calculate the minimum grade you need to get on your exam to get a first overall or a 2-1, whatever. Starting with chemistry, I did really well on a project that took up like 30% of the overall grade, but the exam was super time constrained where we got 60 questions in an hour and I wasn't feeling great after the exam. So I'm predicting a 2-1 for chem. Next up is cell biology. I'm gonna be honest, this module was really not that interesting for me, and it was hard to get myself to study it consistently, especially because it was so content heavy. And given that I almost need a 70% to score a first, I'm pretty sure this one's gonna end up being a 2-2. For biochemistry, this module was quite special because even though I found the content really boring, I somehow scored like an 80% on the term 1 test, and right after the exam I wasn't feeling terrible about it. I was pretty confident in all my answers, so even though all my friends hated on this module, I would actually predict first. Next, neuroscience. I scored really well on the essay assignments that we had during term time. However, not only do they count extremely little, but I also don't feel like I performed that well in the exam, mainly because the content that we learned from this module was really not examinable in a handwritten exam, as we mainly learned how to use softwares and do research online and look at papers, whereas the exam was about generic facts that you just memorize and regurgitate. So I'm predicting a 2-1 in neuroscience. And for physiology, the content was relatively straightforward, and I also scored pretty well on the mini tests that I had throughout the year. I felt decent right after exam as well, so taking those into account, I'm predicting a first in physiology. Next up is genetics. I honestly have no idea for genetics because I was consistently scoring really high first in the tests I had during the term, but then again, I was completely lost after the exam and I honestly felt like I was barely gonna pass. And given that the exam is still weighted more than the test, I'm predicting a 2-2 for genetics. So my last exam was neurobiology, and I actually ended up submitting an extenuating circumstance form 3 hours into the exam and deferring it because of a physical health condition. And I'll be retaking that exam actually at the end of August, which I think is even scarier because it's in the middle of summer and I've just been chilling since May. But I've already started studying for it, which is a lot more time than what I initially dedicated to the neurobiology exam back in May. And I'll be uploading more videos on my exam prep and maybe a study with me video as well, so stay tuned if that sounds interesting to you. Okay, so UCL was super straightforward with the grades, so they just like sent it to me by email, so like I basically have no choice but to look at it. Let's do this. Okay, it's literally right there and I just need to click on it. Okay, it's a pass. Okay, so here's a list of my results. My average turned out to be 73, so a first overall, and I'm actually so happy that I actually managed to secure a first. Obviously, I could have done better, but it's well above what I initially had hoped for and what I needed to get. Yeah, I'm just really shocked that I managed to pull myself through this year with these amazing grades on top of working 2 jobs and also moving to a new country. What I would definitely improve for second year though is time and stress management. With some of the modules, I was literally cramming the contents in like a week. This was a common issue across all modules to some extent, where I was constantly stressed out because of how close the exams were to each other, and that pressure was just too overwhelming to the point where I couldn't focus during my study sessions. So for next year, I really want to start early and plan things ahead so that I don't get as stressed and so that I can have more structure and routine in the exam period. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye!